والصلاة والسلام سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وقدوتنا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Respected brothers and sisters in Islam, first we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once again. Allah has granted us the tawfiq, the ability to have performed our Maghrieb Salaah with Jama'ah. Alhamdulillah. We make dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our Salah with Jama'ah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us sincerity and istiqamah. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Beloved brothers and sisters in Islam, this evening we started the tafsir of Surah Al-Kafirun. And as we have mentioned, we discussed the tafsir of Surah Al-Kawthar last week, where we discussed and we mentioned how the mushrikun, how they used to mock at Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how they used to hurt the feelings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam by calling him an abtar. And meaning an abtar, as we have explained last week, is when someone is completely cut off, meaning that person doesn't have a progeny, all the sons of the person passed away. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam lost his children, they used to mock at Rasulullah, disregard the feelings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They use it as an opportunity to get at Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed Surah Al-Kawthar to comfort the heart of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam by telling, Inna a'tinaka al-Kawthar, that indeed we have given you this well of Kawthar. As we've mentioned, Kawthar also referring to every type of good in this dunya and akhirah, which Allah has given to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this evening also a beautiful surah of the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about, and this again highlights one of the qualities of the Quraysh and the disbelievers, how they would try whatever they could to prevent Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from spreading the deen of making the da'wah and calling people towards Allah. They would, as in Surah Kawthar, they would try to harm Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam emotionally, physically sometimes. And many times they would bribe Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or offer Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam certain things. And this surah speaks about those type of offerings and bribes they wanted to take, or agreements they wanted to make with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But before we get into the tafsir of this ayah, we look at the virtue of this beautiful surah. Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha reports that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that it is better to recite two surahs in the Sunnah prayer of Fajr, Surah Al-Kafirun and Surah Al-Ikhlas, Surah Qul Huwallahu Ahad. And we know that Surah Al-Kafirun and Surah Al-Ikhlas, the ulama has mentioned not only in the two Fajr salahs of Fajr in the morning, but also in many of the Sunnah salah, Rasulullah used to recite Surah Al-Kafirun. Before the Dhuhr salah, after the Fard salah, after the Tawaf, Rasulullah, the two Sunnahs used to perform. In that he used to recite Surah Al-Kafirun. So Surah Al-Kafirun is a very famous surah Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to recite in his Sunnah salah. And also another virtue of the surah, that some of the companions requested the Prophet ﷺ to teach them some supplication to recite at the time of sleeping. And then Rasulullah ﷺ taught them that to recite Surah Al-Kafirun, and said that this will give them immunity from idolatry. To recite Surah Al-Kafirun, Imam At-Tirmidhi rahimahullah narrates the hadith, whoever recites Surah Al-Kafirun before he goes sleeps at night, it is a means of protection of his iman. It protects the iman of a person. And Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu reports that once a scorpion bit the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he asked for water and salt. He applied the water on the spot where the scorpion bit him, and recited Surah Al-Kafirun, Surah Al-Falaq, and Surah Al-Nas. Here again, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to use these ayahs as ruqya, as ayat of shifa, as cure for a scorpion bite. And we have found not only this, but many ayat in the Quran, Surah Al-Fatiha, many verses in the Quran. The entire Quran, for that matter, is a shifa, is a cure. So Rasulullah used to use a specific surah even when he was bitten by a scorpion, as Mufassirun has narrated. Another virtue is Sayyidina Jubair ibn Mut'im. He says that the Prophet ﷺ asked him whether he wished to be the happiest, most prosperous and well-to-do person amongst his companions when he goes out on a journey. He replied, yes, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I would want and I wish that. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked him to recite the last 5 surahs of the Quran, starting on Surah Al-Kafirun. So whenever they used to go out on business to aid to your barakah and aid to your sustenance and barakah and your earnings, Rasulullah advised them to recite from Surah Al-Kafirun until Surah Al-Nas, the last 5 surahs of the Quran. And when you recite, say Bismillah at the beginning and Bismillah at the end. Make this an habit. And he says that he was one of those people when they used to go out, he wasn't amongst those who made much profit or success of his business. But as soon as he took the advice of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he recited these surah on the journey while going out seeking halal sustenance. He found that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increased him in his prophets. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increased barakah in the sustenance. So those were some of the fada'il and the virtues of the beautiful surah of the Quran. And then we look at why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed the surah. What was the reason Allah has revealed the surah? And most of us will know why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed the surah. It is, as I've mentioned in the beginning, they used to want to make agreements to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They used to come and, oh Muhammad, we will give you the best of this dunya. We'll give you gold as much as you want. We will give you silver as much as you want. We will give you the best woman in Arabia to marry, the most beautiful. If on condition you leave preaching this deen, on condition you leave the da'wah of Islam. And obviously Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam rejected. And in this surah, why Allah has revealed this surah, they came again to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they came and they said to Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they said that, Ya Muhammad, that we have a proposal for you. You worship our idols for 1 year, and we worship your Allah for 1 year. Years out, you worship our idols for 1 year, and then we worship your Allah for 1 year. They're making negotiation. So immediately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals the surah to Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam and says, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ. Say to those who disbelieve, لَا أَعْبُدُ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ. I do not worship that which you worship. Clearly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly states to Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam that how you should respond to them. Tell them straight that I do not worship what you worship. وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا أَعْبُدُ. Nor do you worship the one who I worship. وَلَا أَنَا عَابِدٌ مَا عَبَدْتُمْ. And neither am I going to worship that which you are worshipping. And here the ulama, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again mention, وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا أَعْبُدُ. Allah is repeating, nor will you worship the one who I worship. لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينِ. And here the Mufassirun mention Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is repeating as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam that say to them that you never worship their lords or their idols, and in the future never will it be such that you will worship their lords. You never, and you will never also worship their lords. لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينِ, says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indeed, for you is your faith, and for me is my faith. Allah is teaching us also that la ikrah fid deen, that there's no compulsion and forcing in deen. There's no forcing in deen. Allah beautifully says to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that lakum dinukum waliya din, for you is your religion and for us is our religion of Islam. And the lesson is very brief, and the surah explains itself, and the ulama has mentioned for us in today's time, what lessons do we take from the surah? They say that number one, there comes a point when dealing with a non-Muslim where you have to express explicitly that there's a big difference between your belief and their belief. Sometimes we befriend the disbeliever, or we have a friendship with them, but then we are too shy to draw the line. We're sometimes too shy to draw the line. Sometimes you want to do certain things that they do that's not permitted for you to do. And at that moment, you need to be clear to yourself and clear to the person, also your friend, whoever it might be, and explain to them that this is the stance our deen takes. We should never feel ashamed of our deen. So we need to learn where to draw the line and to express explicitly the difference between our religion and the religion of others, the deen of others. There are no room for, compromise in deen, my beloved brothers and sisters in Islam. Many times we compromise our deen, this deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should never compromise our deen. And always know that your boundaries when it comes to interfaith dialogue. Again, today it is needed in our times where we interact with others, speaking about the religion, speaking about the differences of the religion. But also, again, we need to know the limit. We need to know where to draw the line. And the importance of maintaining the purity of Islam by not mixing it with falsehood. For us as believers, we need to know what is our deen. What does our deen say pertaining a particular issue? And we need to be, we must never mix it up with falsehood. We can never be that we select certain things that we want of our deen. There's no compulsion in deen, but once you enter this deen, you need to enter this deen to Allah wholeheartedly, committed to this deen. So when we enter this deen, we need to enter it completely. What is halal stays halal, what is haram stays haram, and we abstain from it. What is clear will forever be clear. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the ability, my beloved brothers and sisters in Islam, to put into practice the lessons we learn from this beautiful surah of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us to appreciate this deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, never to compromise this deen Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with. Always show appreciation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his ni'mah of iman. For indeed it's a great ni'mah. It is a great ni'mah. If we don't express our gratitude and don't ponder over this ni'mah of iman, we lose the value of this iman. We lose the value of this iman, and that is the moment in time when we compromise our deen. And that is the moment when we don't realize the effort that went in behind when Rasulullah made the da'wah, how much they sacrificed and how much effort they put in so that we can be of those who recite this kalima, la ilaha illallah, how much effort they put in. So it's upon us to preserve this deen in its pristine form to the best of our ability. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and understanding. Wa akhir da'wan alhamdulillah.